Currently, with what we've been working on, we have an application or a web app or however you want to refer to it, and it does create this little interactive story. Currently, it's all done through these little pop-ups, these little alert pop-ups, and that works, but it's not necessarily the most elegant. And depending on the browser, it might actually even have a little option to ignore alerts, right? Because alerts are often considered annoying, and they were very inappropriately used in the 90s with just lots of spam and obnoxious things and stuff. So it's not the greatest method. The other thing too is there's no visuals. You might be thinking, well, how do we put like an image or a graphic inside of an alert? And you can't. Not with the way that we're doing it. Not with a true alert. We could do other things that would be similar or look similar, but we'd have to program them completely different. To start with, we're not going to completely change everything, but we are going to change a little bit so that way we can start to make things a little more visually interesting too, right? Well, I've sort of created this graphic here, and I want this to be like here-ish, right, at the very start of the page, and then it doesn't actually start the story until they click. Now, I don't currently have Photoshop installed. Well, I do, but I haven't activated it yet. Doesn't matter. What I did instead was I just used a few web tools. So I went to Wikimedia Commons, and I searched up jungles, and I found this one. I thought this would be an okay one for sort of the opening of the game. So I took a picture of that, and then not having a graphic editor currently installed, I thought of like, well, there's lots of meme editors and creators, right, that put text on things, right, and that's basically all I needed. So I found one of those on Google, uploaded the little graphic to it, and then told it what I want to write on there, told it to create it, and then took a screenshot of that, and that's how I got this. I do need to rename it, though, because this is a terrible name, and I don't want to use that name. Maybe just rename this to start.png. Now, it didn't have a file type on here, but it is a PNG. On a Mac, if you're doing screenshots, the default file format is a PNG. So I can also confirm that by doing get info. And we can see here, kind PNG image. And even if I delete the extension, right, because you might be thinking, well, it's reading the extension, right? So if we delete the extension, we do get info, we can see it's still a PNG image. PNG images are not very efficient, but it works for now. We can always talk about how to make things more efficient later. So now let's actually put it on our screen. That part's pretty easy. What we do is in the body of the document, we're going to add in some HTML. So JavaScript, HTML, two different languages, but we're not doing anything difficult. We're going to keep this simple for right now. We're going to do this sort of an old-fashioned way because it's easier. Not necessarily the most proper way, but it's easier for now, so that way we can actually continue moving forward. So first I'm going to do center because I want the graphic centered. And then image src equals, and then this is the file name right here, so start.png. I don't need to do a whole path because this file, this adventure.html, is in the same place as start.png, so I don't need a whole file path. Just that will be fine because they're in the same folder. So now if I save it, that should actually be enough for it to work. Now right now we're not seeing it because it's loading the script first, so if I cancel out on these, let's see if it works. There we go. Well, there we go. It took it a moment, but it did work, right? So this script is loading before the graphic is loading, and that doesn't really make sense. So to make the graphic actually load, we need to actually like not have the script run yet. And we can do that by sticking the script into a function and then having the function run when we click on the graphic, which is why I put click to start here, because I knew this was coming. So basically what we're going to do is we're just basically going to throw this whole game loop inside of a function. And to do that, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and start the function after all of my variables have been created. Actually, let's not. Let's do it right here. We want it right before the first alert. Otherwise, this pop-up is going to happen before this happens. So to do the function, we write function, and then we give it a name. So I'm going to call it maybe start game, or start game. Let's be consistent in how I'm naming things. Open curly brace, close curly brace. We need some parentheses, right? So all functions need parentheses. We're going to leave our parentheses empty for right now. We're not going to put anything in them. We can talk about that later on in a future video, but for now, empty is fine. So now I'm just going to take this whole thing, the rest of my program, right, all the way down to here. That includes all of the curly braces for the loop and all the conditionals. I'll go ahead and cut it, and I'll paste it here. And then if I save this and I refresh the page over here, the game shouldn't run. Ta-da, the game didn't run. That's what I want for right now. So it is loading all of this, but it's storing it inside of this function. And until I call this function, the game won't run. So now how do we call the function? How do we make it so when they click, it calls it? All we do is inside of our image tag, up here in the HTML, we do on click equals, and then inside of here, we write the function name that we used for our game. So I called it start game, and then I use the little parentheses, save it. If we refresh this, click to start, there we go. So now the game runs. Now the next thing that we might want to do is to actually make this graphic change as they move through the game. So we'll talk about that in the next video.